One, ticky, two, ticky, three, ticky, I-E.
Well, for me, it's a poetic enterprise. You have to be slightly crazy to do it. Why would you do it? I mean, there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of hassle, there's a lot of sheer tedium of waiting around.
I went right through that red light.
And so I hate to drag out the old word, but I think it's a kind of existential profession. You're really sort of interrogating yourself. What am I doing here? And appealing to tourists for hours after hours is no bucket of fun. Well, there's versions of Gringo Loco. There's one driver, it's the only one I let get away with it. He calls me granddad sometimes. He's all of 30. Is there something else? Was there? There is another name. Americano. It's funny. On one hand, I feel like I'm obsessed with this job. Point two, it's not a job. I mean, it's something you do very freely. It's hardly a job. And on the one hand, you have this volatile mix between I'm in it for me and the sense of a community, of helping each other out. Flat tires, mechanical problems, but more making sure that everybody has rides. How are you doing? You know, I mean, and a sort of free-floating community which can change very quickly. People come and go. People go back and forth between London a fair amount.
This man is a writer. He's had 2 bestsellers in Sweden. His 3rd book was research into criminal gangs.
Before, when I lived in Paris before that, and I just seen the velo-taxi drivers, and kind of looked like they're like people who can't get a normal job. It's like they're slaves. You don't get paid anything. Like it's the worst job in the world.
Right. And I think a lot of French people think that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of French people think that.
They look
yeah.
at us and they.
And like I know that because that's what I thought. You know, I thought it's just a scum who can't get a job. And there's a lot of people like that, but you know, it's not.
This
not
magazine
only
written by scum who can't get a job.
Yep.
Don't want a job.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm thinking of putting signs on my bike, you know, something, I mean, some jokes in French to get the French laughing. This is the rentrée right now. This is the real beginning of the year for the French. September, all the novels come out, something like over 100 novels get published in September. So I was thinking of putting in something about that, the rentrée spéciale, and some other things, and maybe somehow out of the great mass of tourists to try to attract the ones that have a little something else going on. Sometimes late at night for me, I drive up to Notre Dame after 10 and I get marvelous people, just fascinating people.
Sometimes I think that we can't talk about everyone, but because some of the drivers they're very businessy about it. But I think there are a lot of drivers who like give to me, when I look at them with a little aesthetic distance, you see these are like tremendously free spirits. You know, I mean, they may be desperate. They may have real difficulties. I mean, let's mention a name, Silver, okay? This guy has problems, But you know, when he's out there and he's always wearing a long coat, he's already switched to the long coat. He had 2 cold days in September, and he's already got the long coat on again. He looks like a character out of Isaac Bashevis Singer or a painting by Marc Chagall. Flying through the air with the long coat, the trails and his big sort of worker's stoveman's hat on and stuff, and just the whole thing. It's like an image out of literature of a spirit flying through the woods. I see this in a lot of drivers. They really are. When we say free spirit, we always think of very positive. Oh, very lighthearted, very free, no commitments, never to be tied down. But free spirits can be motivated by desperation too.
I'm a writer. I worked a long time as a writer, journalist, sometimes editor. In New York, there's a lot of editing work. All the places, whether they're financial houses or businesses of various kinds, they're always generating reports. So if you're not becoming the world's most blazing new novelist, and I was always around on the writing scenes, readings and all that, you can make some money doing that. But I had 3 and 4 months when I had no work. This was before the web and all the translation sites where you could get work online, which are mainly an enormous headache, and I did for a while and stopped when I was here in Europe. Anyway, so I had 3, 4, 5 months in between books because I was working my way up and I wasn't getting a book offer every few months. And besides, anyway, what was I going to do? Sit at home and eat yogurt and get fat? So I saw the velo-taxis in New York. It was very small, 50 bikes in New York. And I said, that's great for 3, 4 months. It gets me out of the house. It gets me a very different experience than what I'm used to, being a kind of writer guy. It's really great material. And so I got into it. So I did it off and on like that. And I would get books and then I could go away. I would save some money. The money was good in New York because the numbers were low of velo-taxi drivers. So I sort of balanced the two. They were completely, I don't know about diametrically opposed, but they were certainly on different ends of the spectrum.
Do you feel you're a nomad?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I'm torn between. Sometimes I just want to find a home. Like I'm torn between either wanting to find a home, someplace to stay, or just wanting to move on.
Mm-hmm. So Paris is just a temporary encampment for you.
I don't know.
This is a poem I wrote. You know, the velo-taxi, a couple of people, Bibi, myself, others, we have little notebooks and we're always writing things down. We're sitting there, we're going through that essential phase of boredom, whatever. And so I had a lot of different things that I'd written about people I knew and just wild speculations and stuff. So I pulled it together and I called it Troubles with Civilization. Where'd you go, Giorgio? What are you doing now? Are you riding a bike somewhere overhead? Your heart was bad, and the panic attacks nearly killed you. Nights we sat on Pont Alex, doing nothing, and listening to jazz, talking about the world, asking questions, ignoring the passers-by, and taking some time trying to figure things out. Why were you in Paris? What were you doing on a bike? It was all such a tremendously bad idea, but when I asked, you just stroked your beard and stared off into the distance. We went to the hospital one night, and the doctor, with that practiced look of hangdog sympathy, whispered in my ear, "Your friend? Not long for this world."
how did you kind of end up in velo-taxi?